Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Type faster, Joel just leveled up to 74. No.
No. Oh, man. Type faster, Joel. Thank you for the subby wubby. Thank you so much for that sub, dude, for 74 months. Holy shit. Jive faster, Joel. You should always jive faster, dude. Thank you for 74 months. I think we missed your 69th month. How upsetting is that, dude? Now we're just like relying on Paul to give us that, right? Oh, how was your day, dude? How was your day? I am glad to be off work. That's yeah. You can say it wasn't nice. That's okay. Here, we'll celebrate your 69th one. Ready? We'll go back in time. You are back in time a bunch of months ago. Type faster, Joel, with the 69 months. Nice. And there we go. See? Yeah, I had to work today. Unfortunately. 24/7 business. So, someone's got to work, right? Been staring at your screen all day? Really? Or are you just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to play. I don't know what to even, what do? I'd tell you what, I'd probably be doing the same thing. Or I'd be in the living room watching TV, watching YouTube, or like just zoning the hell out, dude. That's pretty much what I would do. Anyway, well, enough about our days. Game Genie, take it away.
Oh, geez. Maybe you should have asked me how my day, Raven, was.
Game Genie, how was your day?
Well, you see, I went out with Charlene. Charlene and I had tea, and it was a pretty lovely day. I just want to say that.
Charlene the Space Slug.
Yes, Charlene the Space Slug. You shouldn't really call her that. She's not really a slug.
She looks like a slug.
Oh, well, yeah, that... Anyway, so after that...
Game Genie, we gotta start the show, dude.
Okay, fine. Well, I had tea. It was great. All right. Anyway, you guys are in for a treat. Mikolo Wow and RavenVulcans will be playing Fortnite for your eyes. Yep. Your eyes are going to be so amazed by their gameplay because they're so good at it and win every game.
Hey!
Anyway, if you like the show, make sure you follow the page, you go to the YouTube, you do the subscription and all the other stuff. And if you really like this show, make sure that you hit Raven with that Twitch Prime that you get one free a month, or any of your other favorite streamers. Raven's pretty good though. All right. Anyway, you guys have fun, and I'm gonna go soak my toes.
Soak his toes, he says. Soak his toes. Okay. Let's see here. Why isn't my music working? My music's not working. Oh yeah. My music's not working because of one little thing I changed. There we go. Honestly. Oh my God. There we go. There we go. Honestly, Mick, you're not wrong. You there?
Hello, hello.
Can I offer you a?
That's who we come to see. Is Game Genie.
Can I offer you a chicharroni in this trying time?
Hey, what?
Chicharoni.
I
Pork
have
skin.
no idea what that is.
Pork skin. Pork rinds.
Oh, I don't eat pork rinds.
Oh, you're missing out. You want to eat?
I think I used to when I was younger, but
All right, there's a little bit of ASMR for everybody. Are you ready to hear it? I think I got pork rind dust on my microphone.
ew.
Porky. What do you want to start out with?
It's been a while, so we might have to do something easy to get back into the groove.
There's no easy to this. Nice skin.
Thanks. Yeah, she's new. She came out in the shop recently. Didn't we play on Friday? We didn't. Did we play Friday? Oh yeah, we did play Friday. It's still been a while.
I was just letting him. I was just letting Mick say his word on it. I was like, if he thinks it's been a while, it has been a while.
It has been a while.
We did play on Friday.
It has been a whole weekend.
It's been 2 days. he's got the itch. I didn't really game as much this weekend and that I wanted to. And when I was doing it, I was playing Pantheon online.
Yeah, Raven ignored me all weekend.
I did. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It was a snowy weekend. It was so chill. We ate some good food.
No, I probably would have ignored Mick as well. I'm sorry.
Game Genie's freaking rude, dude.
Well, that's okay. I don't really care about Game Genie, so.
Good. See, Joel, you can't help Game Genie. He's he might be, his code is corrupting. Which is not a good thing. Usually for the channel.
1111 just joined the conspiracy.
Not Mason. Thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate you. Welcome to the conspiracy. Hope you enjoy the content.
I think because it's a holiday weekend for me, that's why it feels like it's been so long.
Mm-hmm.
Friday feels like it's been so long ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. Oh gosh. Oh. Wherever you want to go. I don't care.
Let's go to Lost Lake.
Lost Lake. Right now?
Going more towards the center in case Godzilla spawns.
Oh yeah.
Godzilla.
I forgot about Godzilla.
Yeah.
I forgot that was the last thing we did.
Yeah, supposedly his spawn rate has increased, but I played several games yesterday and saw him once.
Oh dude, it is popping here.
Oh, it is. Let's go.
I mean,
I don't know. Let's go across to this house and then we can.
yeah, we can pick them
rotate
off.
out.
That'll be fine.
There's a SUV over here. That
I
we
mean,
can,
I was down to fight, but it would have been probably pretty hairy. All right.
Yeah, about like 6 or 10 people there.
Well, I want corn. There we go. Are we rotating out?
Yeah.
Because there
we'll
ain't
rotate.
shit here, Captain.
We'll head over to a gas station over here. I think. Yeah, there it is.
Not Mason. How was your
That's it.
day? Hope it.
Just building.
Hope it
There's
was a
somebody
good
in that
day.
Building.
I have nothing to fire at with these guys. I can hook them. Go, go, go. I think it's a bot. honestly.
Do you? They were hitting the car pretty good.
Oh. Stop here.
There's a couple of guns, yeah, and chests.
Yeah. Did you grab anything at that other house?
I do have one gun. Oh, there's a
Okay.
purple hollow. Are you?
Sure. I think we're getting shot at.
Are we still getting shot at?
Yeah, I think it's a bot. Space Rivers. I salute you.
I'm gonna grab the car. You can head down to the house.
They still have a partner, so
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's a bot. It was very body. Do you have any minis or anything? Drink them if you got them.
Like one big pot.
All
I'm
right.
gonna use it.
Let's maybe back up to the gas station. I think that bot didn't loot it, so
You still think that was a bot?
yep. It's a dude right here. I don't know, dude.
I think that was still a person.
I mean, they played like a bot though. Chat, would you agree that player played like a bot?
Here, I'm gonna throw my corn at you.
I don't want no corn, dude. I already got me some corn. It's in my toes. Oh, now I find him.
There's some minis over there. People don't need a little field.
Oh, I'm good now.
Oh, there's a car coming. Are they going by?
I don't know.
They are not. It's Godzilla.
Stand back. Oh yeah, baby.
Well, that was insane.
Oh yeah.
Hey, there's still one pump alive. Yay.
I mean, they wanted to roll up to a gas station to stop him in between gas pumps. You know?
Yeah.
That wasn't very smart. I'm just saying, you know?
Oh, our car survived too.
Hey.
Okay, I have no shields now. Let's see. I'll prepare these minis.
I have one mini for you. Oh, you're good already.
There's two in here, so.
They seem to focus on you. They didn't even focus on me at all. That's crazy.
They just don't like me because I have horns.
Yeah, probably.
They're profiling.
Yeah, dude. Your horns are too edgy.
Yep.
And you gotta go to jail now.
I know. Why do I have a fishing pole?
I brought it with me. It was from the first place.
Oh no, I had one too.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Wait, what?
Let's go with that. All right, let's rotate out. Let's
Yeah,
that sounds good. There's a boss still there. Mason, we play Fortnite every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday usually. Sometimes we mix it up, but very rarely.
We still gotta get back to
movement.
Borderlands.
Yeah, we do need to play some Borderlands, honestly.
What happened to my fire pit?
I don't know.
Did you destroy the fire pit?
No, never.
That was trying to heal me?
No, I did. You know what? We have here. Look, that makes up for it. I didn't do that though. I have a VOD that has proof on it.
Chat, did you destroy the fire pit?
I saw the fire pit and then it disappeared. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you leaving me? Come back here.
Oh, I thought you got in the car.
Oh.
What's weird? Ooh, bunkers here.
Never know what you're gonna get with us. Ever, dude.
Oops. Dang rock. That was weird.
As far as I know, this car is not aquatic.
It is.
And you seem to be not doing good with driving today.
Look, do you want to drive?
Yeah, sometimes. There's some fighting going on over here.
That's okay. I want to go over here.
Yeah.
Get some loot.
Oh shit.
Ooh, people have been here.
Oh
Pretty good
shit.
battle here.
Hold on. There's a purple if you need it.
I have a mythic, I think.
All right.
We dropped from one of those guys we killed at the gas station.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah. Oh, here's the boss.
Hang on, fish.
There's a mask at least for you.
Oh, we can use that to get in the secret room.
Yeah. Knocking players. We'll grab it. I'll hold the pounce.
Okay. I have shield fish on me, so
This looks like someone already got in.
to the secret room.
Yeah. Let's see what's left. There's a shotgun. They didn't search the safe, that's for sure. Here we go.
At least they left the ammo boxes, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, I'm back out. Shooting over there. Behind that little building. I think they're playing in the storm a little bit.
Let's switch cars.
You're right, we need a McLaren. Oh, this is...
They're right there. Now these are boss.
Yeah, definitely. If my shots could be actually good today. And warm up my hand, I guess, huh?
Guess so.
Let's see. Gas station might be the play to fill up, and then we'll yeah, fuck.
You can go that way.
I was trying to beat the storm.
What gas station? Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still quite a few people up, so.
I wonder when that vehicle combat mode is gonna be coming back.
I don't know.
Or like the talk of it anyway. It was because that was part of the leak, wasn't it?
It was a, yeah, it was a theorized leak, but who knows? I mean, we did get the first person mode, and supposedly we were supposed to get another map to that, but
Yeah, I need them to work on that a little bit more before I start playing that again.
yeah. Yeah, it still needs some work. Somebody's already looted. I
Yeah.
don't see anything.
Let's see. Forest is still a little open. We can loot here, see if we can get a sword. I don't know if there's gonna be anything left, but it's worth a try before the storm moves in.
Yeah, I don't remember where swords are in this place. I think they spawn in the big building sometimes.
Islands up. I don't think there's too many swords here. The hell?
No, not in this area.
Alright. 30 seconds. Hey, look, another fire pit. Did you just break it?
That one just... No, it just died on its own too pretty quick.
Huh. That's
I
weird.
wonder if it's bugged.
Oh, maybe.
Because usually they last much longer than that.
Car's ready. Let's rotate down the Foxy Floodgate. Or maybe the mountains near it at least. That's gonna be the direction I want to go.
Yeah, someone's fighting the boss right now.
Oh, down there.
On the island.
Oh, on that. Okay.
The island boss.
I didn't look at the map yet, so. Whoa!
Yeah.
Hey,
I see him
buddies!
moving around.
You want to fight them or not?
Yeah, we can.
Circle back around.
Oh, they got... One of them's up there. Oh, they got a bot with them.
Yeah.
Let's not fight them directly.
I don't want to fight them right now.
Okay. That building there sometimes has swords. That's not where we just came from, right? Oh, but it's about to be.
What sucks is I saw a sword on the body they were looting. Not really body, but the loot. Damn. Car's jacked.
Yeah.
Ah, shit. We're moving in.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't really have a lot of time here.
Yeah.
Gonna be mostly in the storm.
Floodgate's still the play.
Okay.
Dude, you can teleport halfway across the map. Or maybe I can. No, I can. I have a teleport thing ready to go. It's pretty far though. I think it's in the storm. So I gotta be careful not to hit that.
Boss medallion's down on the island.
I got an idea. Hold on. Making moves before the moves. Fresh car. The tire's out on one of these, right? No? I thought he popped my tire. Guess not.
No.
That's weird. I got the audio cue for it.
I think the audio cue you're thinking of is just like whenever your car gets more damaged.
Oh.
Not
maybe.
necessarily the tire popping. I know which cue you're talking about. Okay, and medallions.
We could go down there and loot up, but
There's not really a whole lot of places that are going to be in the circle here.
I'd rather get high ground right now.
So
I would say we need a new car. Yeah. Let's just take the Jeep. Okay. 8. Storm's gonna move pretty quickly.
Yeah, we gotta move across, but we still got 30 seconds, so we don't have to rush it.
Yeah, but there's a gas station.
Oh, there's a car over there. Better car, maybe?
Oh, I see one. I got a fresh one over here. Yeah. There you go. Do it, to it.
No, you want me to drive?
I drove my McLaren into the ground. It's only fair. We gotta swap them.
We swapped out my car too.
Eh.
Are we taking turns?
Always.
People right in front of us. There's ones with the spot too.
That's the bot.
Yeah, no. Not mind killing their bot if that's the only thing we can hit.
They're up this way.
There's one. Yeah, get there. Careful.
Shit, on me. Downed one? I'm down. They got another team. That's the last one, I think. You got two people.
I killed you.
Yeah. There is a reboot ran, yeah. You can get me real quick. We can end this. Oh shit.
Ah, crap.
Oh, it's a solo, dude.
Yeah, he was rebooting. I don't have the help to sit there and fight someone right now.
I'll grab one of the sprites if you can. Shit. There's a reboot van that way. Yeah. You're gonna need some health bad though. Go towards the circle, dude. Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Good play. All right. Go towards the circle. No, behind you.
I know, but I was trying to see if I could reboot you over here.
Oh.
You don't think I have time?
Probably not. I think they're all over here too, so you have more of a chance at the other place.
Someone's rebooting at the other place.
Yeah. That's not good.
Already.
Yep, there he is.
Yeah, there's too many people here.
So we got one back, so you got a team of 2 and a solo. And they're in that house, yeah. Yeah, it's not coming back yet. I saw movement in front. You might be able to just win it if you just let them fight the other team. Maybe the other guy will down them, because that's the circle. I'd get up high ground, honestly. Oh shit.
Damn it. You get stuck. Nope. I gotta go. Sorry.
Oh god.
I'm gonna go up here.
One's dead. You just have the circle left and the other guy. I'd let him fight it out.
Is it two teams?
Yeah.
2 solos?
No, it's... Oh shit. Hide. Oh! Sword, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, there was no chance. That sucks.
Not with the health I had.
They got that reboot off, and then that was the solo was with you, and then just you. That sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe the play would have been that other reboot van, but I had a feeling that there was a person near that one too.
No, I don't think there was. I don't think they left.
That was a very close one.
Yeah, that Godzilla was the one that was trying to reboot at the gas station.
Is
If I
what
had
it is.
gotten him, then
You know what
I might
time
have
it
played
is?
differently.
You know what time it is, dude? It's time to get serious. It's Meat Man time. I am Meat Man. But you're going anime? Okay. That's a weird duo right here. Definitely a weird duo.
You know why we didn't win that last one? I don't think I had my shark shoes on.
You didn't.
No.
You didn't. But I realistically why we didn't win is because I went down and your health dropped and you didn't have anything else. Meat Man crush! Urgh. Must give people tainted meat! Ooh. I think our normal or Whiffy Wharf, wherever you want to go. What do you think?
Oh, I was gonna say Lost Lake again to try to get, like I said,
Oh,
close
shit.
to the center.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it won't be as sweaty because it's
Well,
not as close to
last
the
time
map.
we jumped right on the bus line.
Yeah.
When's OG Fortnite season 2 coming out?
End of this month?
Is it the end of this month?
I think
Is
so.
it this week?
No, isn't that next week? Yeah.
It should be
not
next
until
week. Okay, yeah.
It's only the 20th.
I'm gonna
T1
go
collector.
to the back end.
Going to this bigger house.
Oh, you want to go to the big one? All right, we'll fight through it. They might be heading here
It's
too.
one glider. I don't know if they're landing here.
Yeah, maybe.
I need a weapon. I have a weapon.
Oh shit! You didn't see that?
Darn those snipers.
Yeah, freaking snipers everywhere. Here, come here. Oh, did you hire?
Yeah, I did. Where? Why do I not see you?
I'm right behind you.
like blend into the environment.
That's Meat Man's skill. I just blend in.
Nope. And I'm
Oh,
just
here, come here.
black, blue, and pink blob.
Yeah, dude, you're absolutely a target for us. I need an AR bad.
Here.
Can't work in these conditions. Meat Man needs his assault rifle. Oh, there's an AK. I don't want that though.
Oh, the Ranger Assault.
Boss still up? Yeah.
They're okay. They're just a little bit slow. But they pack a punch and they're pretty accurate versus the other two. Are you fighting someone?
Yeah, the boss.
Oh, there's your purple hollow.
You got a purple?
Yeah, I have a purple ranger right now,
Alright.
so I'll use it.
Sick. Boom! I'm not even checking quest on what I need to get done. I'm just doing it.
Yeah, my story quests are still broken, so I can't see what I need for them.
I wonder if you could utilize mine, but I don't know how many of you've done past me though. Dude, are you running towards gunfire?
No, I was getting the sprite.
I've taught you well.
Oh, these are bots.
There's one more.
At least I think they're bots. They might not be.
No, they're.
Maybe not.
I don't know,
That one's
dude.
landed.
Okay. Hubcap donuts. Well, I'll just dab on them a little bit. In case. Just in case. Shit, hell yeah.
Give me something good.
Oh shit. Nice.
No, that wasn't good. That wasn't really good either.
It's a shotgun. It's kind of good.
Yeah.
Investigate footprints. Where the hell are they?
Oh. Oh, footprints. That's on the western coast or eastern coast because it's Godzilla's footprints.
Oh.
We're nowhere near that. We
Yeah.
have to go. It's like down here somewhere. Oh crap! Got out of layer because
Yeah. There
they
were
took
buddies
off
behind him, probably.
almost all my health. Don't die! I'm nowhere near you. Oh, never mind. You got them both. Let me grab this first. Grab that, and get him down for us. Oh, he ran away.
That's fine.
Yeah, switch out for that.
Drink up. I'll take your minis. That's just one mini? Ew. What's wrong with you? Oh yeah, there is. Never mind. They do have the railgun if you want that.
Nah.
Oh shit, where'd my gun go?
Oh.
I swapped out my gun? Where the hell's my hollow sight one? There it is. God. Let's find a car. We gotta get out of here.
I told you, Joel, it's been a while. He can't even find his guns.
Listen, meat man always knows how to find his guns.
Car. Maybe here? I don't know.
Mick,
What?
get in the car.
Hey, why does the NPC get the right shotgun?
Because you failed to see that I had a car.
So we need a sword somewhere. We can go up to Flooded Frogs.
Yeah. Okay.
We could also, there is a key for the little circle thingies right there. Oh, never
Oh.
mind, somebody just picked it up. So
Yeah.
there's probably people right here.
Yep.
Be
Let's
prepared.
might cut through over here. Oh, they already saw us.
go for the flooded frogs. Then. Shh.
Hell yeah.
You talk about my driving.
Dude, I'm all about doing the tricks, you know? Everybody get in the car. All right.
Ah.
You know how nice it is not to play ranked anymore?
We should play ranked.
No, no, absolutely not.
How else are we gonna get to Unreal?
I'm not doing ranked anymore. We got all the quests done. We're good. We're good. No more. No more ranked. It's extremely. Oh, you know what? Yeah, fuck the bot. You're right.
You can run. You can run. She'll be okay.
I mean, she has her endless supply of shot grenades. Getting shot at.
No, I jumped out.
All right, I'm just parking the car over here then.
Loot this place.
There is somebody here. We got shot at, by the way. I'm gonna go check the the secret area. Oh yeah, it hasn't been looted.
Yeah, you have a mask. Yeah.
Oh fuck. Do you want the mask?
Yeah, I
So
can
get in?
drop it. The entrance and all that.
Because there's gonna be more than I can. Is that close enough? Damn it! Here we go. Fire boon, if you want to pick that one up. Someone's here.
Or are they shooting at the PC? There must be.
Yeah, probably.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, let's
Yeah, I see the footsteps though.
turn here.
Where's our partner? Oh, I see him.
Booming on us.
What's that?
There's footsteps
Oh.
right above us. Oh! Knocked one? On me?
Up, hitting him. Damn it.
Yeah. They wanted that thirst. That's a fine. There's a reboot van.
There's one right here.
Yeah, yeah.
I can just reboot you and then you should be able to
I get all my shit, yeah. They're like, I'm gonna lose this, but I'm gonna thirst this guy.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good play, honestly. You get that last little bit of XP, you get that extra kill on your belt, you get that XP as well, you know. It's smart.
Yeah.
The smarter idea would have been rotate out of that battle and they could have saved their friend too, so.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
They didn't care.
Apparently not.
Look, I do not like, and they were vegans. They're
They were vegans. Oh.
They said, no way we can let Meat Man live.
Meat Man must die. Did my card go away?
Your card?
Yeah.
Oh, your boon?
Yeah. You got any full pots?
No, I just have, I guess
that
we
works.
both could use some. He's dancing on your head, by the way. Come back here. You cannot leave us. That sword puller? Yeah. Did you get your hollow? There's a hollow here. Maybe that was theirs.
That is mine. I grabbed theirs, I guess. There we go. Perfect.
Oh, hang on. Before we run off.
Full pot over here.
No, let me use this.
Oh,
instead.
shit. Well, yeah, save it.
Because we both needed it. Well, no, because we both.
Oh.
I needed it too. That's why I was gonna just go and use him.
My bad.
Fine. He faded away. I'll have to grab another one if we can find one. Okay, that was is that a no, that's a shield.
You got a sword, right?
I have one, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I'm gonna go grab these bunkers down
Oh,
here.
yeah. Splashes? Nah, minis.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of splashes around.
Yeah, I had some. I don't know what happened to them though.
Here's some.
I want to go get the car.
There's some. I don't know if you want the Oni mess back or.
Nah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought there were more splashes. What are we at? 18.
Do you have big pots?
Oh, here's some more splashes. No, I've got 4 splashes.
Oh yeah, keep those then.
Splashes and bunkers.
I'll do minis then.
Oh, car's over here, that's right. I'm okay ammo-wise, weapon-wise. We can head out whenever.
Yep.
Yeah, we got 9 seconds. We gotta grab the car and go.
Wait, my hand. Do 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 do. We don't talk about what we just saw. Okay? We just keep on driving, man. All right? Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened.
Officer, it was him.
We
It
did
was
not
me.
hit that lady.
It was 100% Meat Man's fault. Did you just hit me with the car? You're about
Finish
to head toward
her.
the medallion. There's one right in the forest in front of us. You really didn't want anybody to have that car. Poor NPC.
All right.
Yeah, so we got a medallion in the forest right in front of us that we're about to drive to.
I'm gonna
There's one
rotate
on
it.
the other side,
Yeah.
but we don't need to move just yet. There's still 10 other people up. I mean, to be fair, it's kind of her fault for teleporting in front of you.
Yeah,
instead of
dude.
behind you.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a rock here. Hold on. Oh shit.
is somebody shooting?
Yeah. I'm gonna go right through the middle. Ready?
Yeah, we get shot from both sides. That would be fun. Oh,
It's a
someone's rebooting
possibility.
up near us. There's a car.
It's right there. Shoot him. Shoot the car.
Right where?
Purple. Delayed, Mick.
The rock was in my way.
Here, get in. We'll rotate out. Straight in front.
Oh, someone in front of us.
Oh shit.
There you go.
Behind me. Mick. Oh, you got him? Knocked?
I'm not. Godzilla's by the tree. Oh, he got me. He should be pretty low.
I was pretty low too. Oh. Man, you're bloodthirsty today. I was gonna.
Second Godzilla that's killed me.
Yeah, we don't. We haven't even unlocked Godzilla yet, have we? Or do you have them?
The skin. Yeah, I do have the skin.
I'm about to.
Go,
2 more levels.
let's go darker skin. It won't stand out as much.
Sweat
I should,
skins?
yeah, I gotta wear my shark shoes, huh?
Yeah. That's how we win this.
I'm bloodthirsty every day.
Today especially. You've been jumping out of the car left and right. Remind me of myself. I'm proud of you.
I told you we're out of sync. We haven't played since last week.
We could be in sync.
We could, but we need a few more people.
Yep. Make
How many people
fisticuffs.
in sync? Is it 4 or 5?
I think it was 5. I don't remember.
Oh. Well, then we can't even do it in this game because it's only a 4.
I only know one of them members, Justin Timberlake. I think so, right? Unless he was. Yeah, he was in NSYNC. Okay. Where's Tofu? She would know this.
Maybe Joel knows. He's a music guy.
Oh yeah, Joel would know. It was Justin Timberlake in NSYNC. Yes or no? Nightbot said no though. See, that was a trick.
So I think you need footprints, so you need to go here.
Oh, we don't have to go there. We
We
can.
go there, it's fine.
All right.
I'm tired. Godzilla doesn't even spawn. Like, they supposedly increased his spawn rate to 40%, and
Got him.
I'm not seeing.
No, I was making sure I had the right boy band for Justin Timberlake. He's like the only person I know out of that band. There you go. Always need the Titus laugh. Ah ha 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 ha. Oh, that's behind my camera. I need to fix that.
Oh, I got a Ninja Turtle on me. I'm gonna go across the...
Yeah, if you come down here, I
Yeah,
got lots of stuff. It's Godzilla. Godzilla's in the game. We've played a lot of matches and we have yet to see Godzilla yet. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, for today. We saw a ton of them on Friday whenever his spawn rate wasn't even as high.
I think these are bots.
You think so? They might be. The one in the tower didn't really seem to... I mean, he shot at me, but... He looted a box. Do bots loot boxes?
Yeah.
I
Normally.
didn't think they did.
Here, I got some minis for you, and there's a
dinosaur print.
There you go. And then in here, there's one barrel. Is that closer? There you go.
Godzilla! There was a car here. I thought I saw. Yeah, it needs to be here.
There's a tanker. Oh, there's people over here. Other guy's coming.
Where? Oh. I don't have anything that's long range. Yeah, I do.
Now we're gonna be the dinguses in the water.
I'm just getting ammo.
I'm gonna go loot. There's a jump pad. And get on top of the bridge and get a car. Also, there is some splashes here. Come here.
Godzilla! Where is he? Oh, he's like right next to us.
No
Where's the
shit.
jump pad?
Here, jump into it.
I wish I had some movement.
Yeah, I don't
This
got
sucks.
shit. Hasn't happened yet. Go, go, go.
Someone's like right next to us too.
Someone got
car.
it. Yeah.
Damn it. I don't know, even with a car, we probably wouldn't have made it.
Nope. Oh shit. There's people here. Ninja Turtle.
Ooh, Godzilla almost told me no. Where are you? Oh, right
Getting
down
chased by players. About to rotate out.
there. Okay. I'm up on the hill above you. I'll try to see if I can do something to...
They're right below you, dude. You could probably nail them.
Oh, I see him.
Yeah, get them. I don't care about Godzilla. Footsteps on us. Below. Yeah.
Careful. Godzilla. Oh, crap. What you get, Ninja Turtle. Where'd his partner go?
I don't know. We gotta go.
I think his partner pretty good, but... Why
You
is
still
Godzilla
fight the
walking towards
Godzilla?
us?
Shit. Hey, we gotta go. Oh!
Yeah, why is he gunning for us?
Because we're the only players in this area.
We're not shooting him. We're not even shooting him.
I know. We want Godzilla to win. We got people behind us, I think.
Yeah,
There he
people
goes.
On the beach there.
Hey,
Oh,
how
they're
many
supposed to spare
how many AR bullets do you have?
me. 67.
Shit. Okay.
There's a crate down there. Oh, here's, I think, the Ninja Turtle partner.
You get him?
Nah, I got some hits on him, but he's still up.
Where's he at?
He's in the water. He was in the water.
Wait, at this crate.
It'll contain at least, I think, the
Yeah.
railgun. I don't know where he went.
I'm
I
sitting
think he
pretty
had
now.
jump pad. Oh, steps! Ninja Turtle near us. No, that's not the Ninja Turtle. That's Godzilla. He's knocked, but watch out for the guy in the car. I'm knocked.
His buddy's dead.
First one back, I think.
Careful. Got him! Oh!
Did you? Nice, nice.
Oof. 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 Oh. Oof. Oof. That was nice. Legendary if you want it. They sure didn't need it.
Oh, sure. Do you have one?
Yeah, I already have one.
Cool, cool.
Oh. Oh.
I need AR ammo.
I need us to get more shields, so let's head into the little city over here. Someone's here.
We have Godzilla's medallion.
Do we?
Yeah, I picked it up. It dropped next to us. I think one of those people. Oh, we got footsteps.
Yeah, we can teleport out of here too. Talk to this guy, he might give you a shield. I'm gonna teleport us out. Go ahead and drink that, and let me know when to press it.
No, the footsteps are really close. Just
I'm pressing
teleport
it.
us out.
Rotate where?
I'm going to the farm, the flower field, or whatever.
Alright. You got that pot though, right?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
got it on me.
Alright. There's a gas station nearby we can go to as well. Get a car.
Yeah.
Look at us with our big plays. Although I'm pretty sure we could have taken them.
Maybe. I don't have anything for really close range.
Oh, you don't have an AR?
I have an AR, I just don't have anything close range.
Oh,
I barely
close.
have any AR ammo.
How much?
Okay, let's...
How much ammo do you have?
Oh, somebody's running across. I have like 40
All right. You need. Wait. You only have 40 AR?
AR ammo. Yeah.
Oh shit. Hold on. I got you. Come here. Behind the rock. Here.
Oh, we gotta go.
Yep.
There's a car here too.
You grab the ammo, right?
Yeah.
All right. Maybe gas station up down mountain.
Yeah, gas station first. Oh, there's one charging pad.
Well, hey.
Is there any ammo here?
Oh, we're getting shot.
Oh yeah, there's footsteps right here.
Hold on. Where's their buddy?
Don't know. Not seeing anybody. Maybe it was a bot. The buddy bot left him.
I don't know.
I don't know if bots ever separate.
He's still watching me. What is that? Might have been a bot. I don't know. I don't know what's a bot anymore. Ever. They're about to blow up. Go. Or go.
Oh wait, the footsteps are right there.
Yep.
That's the MC. Never mind.
Yeah, they teleported.
Oops. No, I see where they went.
Knocked. They're close.
They went up. Oh,
Shit.
There's somebody else up there. Careful, there's, I think, a second player up there. There's
Okay.
another team up there.
Yeah.
Eh.
We might have been bloodthirsty. It was worth it, I think.
I agree. Okay, so you're not dead.
Yeah, you got about 240 seconds for that one. He's right there. I think that's the solo. Because I killed his partner. No, never mind. It's the duo.
That's duos, yeah.
Yeah. They're getting their shields back, I think.
Probably.
There you go. You might be able to grab my card real quick. We'll see.
Oh, crap.
Oh, no.
No. photo spray.
They're gonna chase you for a bit. Maybe. They're near you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it. There.
Oh, I'm out of dashes.
Nearest van is over here, and there's one near the island. Circle's closest to you, I would go towards the island. Blue marker. It's a little bit further the way though, so I don't know.
Yeah. Oh crap. Nope, SUV. Come on. Come on. Come on, come on. Is that the only other one that's available?
Yeah. Yep. That's it, other than the bridge. So much loot!
Oh yeah, we're down to the last 7 people.
Yeah, they're shooting you. I don't know if you'll be able to get this.
Are they shooting me?
Yeah, they were. Might be bots though.
I thought they were shooting someone else. No, a car's coming.
They don't know. Do it again. Did they hop out?
Yeah, they
Oh
both did.
man. Hilarious. There's the other one.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be too much in storm, but I can try to get up to it.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh, you might be able to get this.
I mean, it's 2 teams and me. If they
Dude,
kinda
you can
just focus on
totally
each
do
other.
this. If you start right now, you'll be good. If you can drop me like an AR and something. Like a gray one, I don't care. Just something.
Yeah. I'm gonna go near the car over here.
Yep.
And
Oh, fuck yeah, hold on. Go ahead and drive it.
oh yeah, there's one of those. Nice.
Alright. Go.
Okay. Over
I got
here.
100 HP and I'm living on a dream. Yeah!
I have a Sprite on me, so that will help.
Yeah. Try to get behind as much as possible. Fuck. Throw the Sprite down right here. And watch your lining get behind the car over here. They had snipers on us.
Yeah, they're gonna be coming towards us. I see them. They're down there at the beach.
Where?
There's one over there, yeah. See him? Oh, we won't be able to hit him, too. Put that on. Damn it.
They're in the water.
I know. I cannot hit a single one.
Do you have
of
an AR or something?
them. I dropped one earlier.
Oh shit,
in
yeah.
the car.
Get ready to go back up to the car.
Why am I not hitting any of them?
I don't know.
Oh crap. Here's your AR. Dude, you're in storm.
Yeah.
Just run out of storm. Just run out of storm because they're in storm.
Oh shit. I'm about to die. Oh, I was still one! No way!
Get out of storm because they won't survive it.
Oh! I jumped in so I could join them. But we did it. Oh. I thought I didn't know they were trapped down there. I didn't know the storm was on me. And then when I jumped, I was like, oh shit. And then I was trying to eat that banana. I think the banana healed me for 1 second. Oh, that was funny, dude. You know
That is insane.
Well, I know how to win them, I guess.
They didn't have swords as far as I could tell, so they had no way to get up to us.
Mm-hmm. Damn. I almost whiffed that so bad.
That was insane.
It's time for Godzilla. It's time.
Yeah, you can be weirdo Godzilla. I don't think I have the second form of Godzilla yet. How close am I? Oh, I need one more level? No, 2 more levels to get the next form.
All right, we won one finally. I'm happy about that.
That was a clip-worthy win.
Oh yeah. My confusion on my face because I thought I was about to lose it. I was like, oh fuck, I fucked this up for us. And then I was like, Victory Royale, okay, I'll take it. I thirsted the dude down below, and then because that's what I was trying, because I saw him trying to jump up there, so I thought they were right there, but it's all good.
Yeah. You might have hit them enough to at least get their health down a little bit.
Yeah.
So that they couldn't survive the ticks.
You don't want to be
As long
Godzilla?
as you. What's that?
You don't want to be Godzilla?
No, I don't want to be regular Godzilla.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I need my shark shoes. Oops. Did I get them beforehand?
I don't know. Hey, you're right. The shark shoes won us that match.
They did.
You know?
Could you imagine how ticked off they must be? Inside the cut would
They're
be-
like, dude, that guy like jumped into the storm to kill us. What a fucking asshole. What was great is we did our normal play where I die, you revive me, and then we win the match. Although they dropped you so fast, dude. Like you got dropped so fast.
That is true. We did.
Yeah.
The fact that we were able to get that revive off. I think it's funny that they came to get me at the first revive spot.
Yeah, I think it was that same team that was chasing us too.
Yeah. And then they let me take off with the car.
Mm-hmm.
It was a perfect play.
It was. Now
I
let's go
don't know
screw
where
it
to
up. I have nowhere down here.
Bowling alley?
Bowling alley it is. Might as well. I will not be streaming this Friday, by the way. You only have me for today and Wednesday. Cookie and I's anniversary is on Friday.
Cool.
Yeah. 2 years.
Did you take the day off?
No.
Huh.
We have to work. We need the money. But we are going out for dinner.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Hopefully the weather will hold up for you.
I think the worst of it is already done. The only thing I hate about landing here is that sometimes if I miss the mountain, I'm forever just floating down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I always aim for the
Yeah, the very
of the
top.
mountain.
Who would have thought I'd be playing Godzilla in a video game? Other than a Godzilla video game. Who would have thought?
Did you ever play that that game Rampage back in the
Yeah.
day?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that game.
What about, did you ever play Godzilla Destroy All Monsters, or whatever it was, back in back on Cube, I believe it was, or like Godzilla
Sounds
All Out or whatever.
familiar.
It was like a Smash Brothers Godzilla game basically, but more 3D-ish, I guess, you know.
Hmm.
It was cool.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. I don't remember if I played it though.
Yeah, that one's fun. I do enjoy it. All right, let's see if there's a sword at that one place.
Godzilla with shark shoes. Yes, Joel. Godzilla can wear his shark slippers all he wants.
Yeah, shark shoes. Look, shark shoes are stomping a city even.
He's got to protect his feet. You know,
Yeah, they're.
the environment is rough, and his toes get cold.
Like how my tail just like sticks straight up in the air. Oh, it was. There we go. I'm running.
Yeah, that match was insane. We got Godzilla.
We got a lot of good kills too. The revival.
One place, like, there were so many good calls.
Yeah.
Did we get a lot of kills? I didn't check
We did. Yeah, we got a decent
Okay.
amount. There's at least like maybe 8 or 10. I don't remember. I mean, we were playing it safe for most of the round and match too, but we kept on running into people. Someone was already here.
Sus.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take that. They must have went over there.
Well, I might have. I might have gone to the city. The mini boss is still up at the forest maze.
Oh yeah, maybe they haven't yet. But we can catch them off guard if they are. Joel, isn't this game silly? So silly. It's the silliest game that I enjoy. We can kill the boss. We got 50 seconds.
Eventually. Where is he? Oh, he's out on the outer ring.
Oh god.
There's a hollow AR.
A little boss hurt me. Oh god. That's fine.
Oh, storm. Felt like we had more time.
Yeah, me too.
I have flashies once we get out. There we go. Are you stomping the city on the back of the Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Now keep on going with it. No.
Well,
I'm fine.
we're here now. Any loot down here? How much time do we have? railgun, bunkers.
Oh, hold on, I gotta finish my bike thing. Commit to the bid or die trying, I guess, huh? Ah, damn. Well, we stop here. Where'd you go?
I'm back up top already.
Where are you?
I'm over here.
Let's see.
Sometimes there is a sword in the middle here, but I don't see it.
Hey man, I'm waiting
Yeah.
for the bus.
Godzilla waits for the bus. Sorry, I see no buses.
How much AR ammo do you have?
$2.99.
Holy shit, split that shit.
No, it's mine.
Or at least give me 25.
It's mine. What do you have?
67.
Oh, fine. I'll give you some.
You don't have to split it, but
Come towards me. I don't see a car.
yeah, they're all gone.
Where are the cars? That's this one. Drop stack.
Yay, thank you. I'm rolling with the rail gun right now. I only have 7 shots in it.
Yeah. Oh wait. Let's kill this dude.
Huh?
Take out this spot. Or this MTC.
Why?
Sometimes he drops a purple hollow.
Oh, now he's angry at us.
No, he's fine.
He
always
wants
acts like
blood.
Okay, we should get moving because we got a minute. Oh, we still got a little time, I guess. But
Hey, gotcha machines.
yeah, they're expensive around here. There's some over in Plano, I think it is.
Oh, you actually got gotcha? I think we have some around here too.
Yeah, it's over at, there's a Japanese supermarket that has a section that has a bunch of them.
My retro game store that I had back in Florida, they actually imported those in and had like a whole wall devoted to them, and they had new stuff in every week. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the one in Plano, I think it's like $3 to $4, $3 to $5 per, so they can get kind of expensive.
Yeah, some are even like $10. Cheaper in Japan for sure.
Yeah. How's your AR ammo?
I'm good.
Okay.
Car coming.
Yep. I'm in. They have a bot with them.
I still need a good secondary.
You have a shotgun and an SMG. Still like a sword, but I don't think I see an area around here that I'm familiar with one being around. Maybe magic mosses, but... Oh, there's a
Yep.
car.
Storm's coming. Oh yeah.
Pull up, so...
Can we actually bounce the car?
I thought you were gonna try to.
No, it doesn't have a good lip on it. It won't let you.
Blow, 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 blow.
Nice clean. I think this is gonna be my last one, honestly. I'm getting hungry. Bro, I think we're gonna make nachos tonight.
There's a gas station
I gotta
there.
start prepping that.
Cool, cool.
Get all our cheeses. Oh shit.
Just gonna check around.
We got players here. Oh,
They jumped out.
gonna fight them?
Oh crap.
Knocked one. I'm going up there.
Okay. Get him? Nice. Oh look, they both had swords. How nice of them.
You got another pot? Oh, there we go.
I have splashes.
Oh yeah. I would use them.
Do you have a health kit? Okay. Oh,
Yeah, I got one.
okay.
Oh, sweet. I got the Mothra one. The Mothra glider? That's what I was really wanting, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a bigger fan of Mothra than Godzilla. Shame to say it. Let's rotate maybe... I don't know.
11 people up. Island boss is not down. Doesn't look like anybody's fighting him because he's standing still.
Right here. Oh no, that's just the what's it called, dude. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't really have anything I want to give him. I guess I can give him this SMG and see what it gives me.
I'm glad I did that. I got a legendary SMG.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll always give you a legendary something. It's just a matter of what.
Oh, there you go.
Legendary Fury. It's a boss. Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna go after the boss.
Seaport City or mountain? Go mountain. We could get high ground.
Wait for me! Wait for me!
Dang it! Did you get any snacks?
Your tail is sticking out of the bottom of your car. That's crazy.
I can't even see it.
Yeah, you might not be able to rotate your camera that way, but it's like you got a hole in the bottom of your car. Your tail's just dragging along. I'll have to take a screenshot later.
Let's see. Fuck. Don't lose it.
8 people other than us. But still quite a few up. Let's see, we have no gas stations. Oh, you're going for high ground, okay.
Yeah, we're still good.
Yep, check in the bushes.
Called that shit. I figured it was rotating that way. Look familiar?
What's that?
Oh, never mind. This is not the same place. Here they come. They're in the storm.
Yeah.
They got another car. They're panicking.
Oh crap. Oh, someone's shooting from behind.
Get in the car.
Get down.
Car. You drive. Go, go, go.
Oh crap. Tree. Your car could not destroy that tree.
The other team's down here, by the way, too.
Yeah.
Do it. We need to get you topped off.
Yeah, I was gonna check if there was anything in here. Okay.
I have nothing after this.
Okay.
Okay, they're fighting each other and we can rotate around. Is there anything else here?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking. Okay, we gotta rotate out.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Fortunately for the storm. Oh, yep, there's something. I got another pot, so
Alright, cool.
I'll drink it. Still 6 people, so 3 teams other than us, so.
Shit,
Yeah, I was
they're
gonna
up
say let
there.
them fight a little bit longer because
They're gonna have
still got
high
plenty of
ground on
time.
us though, but I'm gonna wait. We'll start moving soon. Maybe I'll hit them with the car and damage them enough. That's what we need to start doing, honestly. The more we hit them, like,
Well, it's on the mountain too. If they're not prepared, we can knock them off with the sword using the secondary attack.
yeah.
As long as we hit them.
Hey, Chris,
Done that a few times.
you want me to go straight up the mountain? They're right there.
Let them keep fighting right now. If we can.
All right,
I do want to get up there so that they don't maintain high ground, but
I can boost us up. If they shred the car, though, we're screwed.
yeah.
Dude's right here.
One's
Get
coming
ready.
after us.
Oh shit. I'm down.
One's down. Damn it.
That's okay. Good fight. They're
Oh,
probably
they're
gonna lose. Oh, we gave them the car. They hit their friend.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, that's it. Oh, close game. At least we got that one though.
Yeah,
That was some good matches, dude.
they were.
Oh, look at Mothra. That's sick.
I wonder, do you right on top or do you grab onto its legs?
I don't know. I gotta save this Godzilla skin though. I will just name it God. Yeah, Chris, check it. It's Godzilla. Unfortunately, that was the last match of the day. So, it's okay. We got that win. I'm happy about that.
We did.
You know? I got that
was a
win.
really good
You know,
win.
Chad, if you really want to watch a match, dude, it was the match before this one.
Second to last match was amazing.
Oh yeah, it was great. Oh, well, Mick, thank you for joining me. I'll see you
thanks
on
for being.
yeah, I'll see you on Wednesday for stream anyway. I'll probably be down to game this week, maybe even tonight. We'll see. But
All right, sounds good.
all right, dude. Later. Alrighty, chat. Let's do the thing. Oh, heck yeah. Had some good matches today. Had some great matches, honestly. I will be back on Wednesday. We are gonna probably play more Fortnite, most likely. Friday, as I said, it's Cookie and I's anniversary. I am not gonna be streaming. I'm just going to enjoy the night, and we're just going to enjoy the night. Hey, Raven. We're just going to let's see. All right. I was getting on Twitch to look. Yeah. But yeah, I'll see you guys on Wednesday for sure. We're gonna be doing some, like I said, Fortnite. Get some more wins. Get this Godzilla event taken care of. Yeah. Game Genie, can you send us out?
Yeah, I guess so. Hold on, I need some music. Like, how about this? There we go. Alrighty, chat. You know what to do. Make sure you're following the channel. Make sure you are subscribed to all the things that is RavenVulcans. And I want you to have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on Wednesday!